What is the riskiest financial move you've ever made? And did it pay off or did it blow up in your face? I purchased crypto while I was going through a pretty rough financial time in my life. Do you ever feel like becoming a mother killed parts of your identity? And if so, how did you resurrect yourself? When you become a mother, it is something that a lot of people don't prepare themselves for. The older you get, the more you get used to things. I think when we're younger, we're definitely more flexible. We can adapt and we can change. Why would your followers choose to invest with you over other people teaching wealth creation strategies? I believe that you've really got to work with someone that you feel in alignment with. And I think that welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. So this episode is going to be fun. I decided to ask you guys to drop into my question box on Instagram and give me a list of things that you want to know. And of course, in true Jess style, I made the request that they were only spicy questions. And so some of these might be a bit spicy, but we're going to see where we go. And I'm really excited to answer some of your viewer questions and actually get into some of the things that maybe I don't even know you want to know about me. Okay, so question number one, what is the riskiest financial move you've ever made, and did it pay off or did it blow up in your face? I love this one, and I have so much to say on this topic, but to be honest, the riskiest move that I've ever made financially was when I hired my first coach years and years ago, when I actually had no idea how I would afford to pay for that coach. So for the year-long coaching, it was $28,000. I paid the $1,000 deposit on my credit card, and I think at that point in time, I was earning around $50,000 a year. This was around about 8 or 9 years ago. And so at that point in time, that was an absurd risk. But I have always been a believer, and this has come true time and time again in my life, is that when you leverage yourself financially, it is amazing what will happen as a result. And so that year, or the following year, the year that I had that mentorship, I actually ended up turning over more than $300,000 in my business. Everything completely changed. And so while it felt absurd and risky, it was an emotional and financial leverage that I needed. And it really did change the game. From another perspective, because that's probably an answer that you guys may have expected, which was, yes, hiring a coach. And as you know, I'm an advocate for people hiring coaches and having mentorship. So if I was to answer that in terms of a financial move that I made that wasn't to do with mentorship or coaching, just because I feel that that may have been more what this person might have been asking, would have been the first time I started to purchase cryptocurrency. And this is actually a great story as well, because this is something that taught me a lot, but it actually didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. So it did kind of blow up in my face, and we won't do the math, but I'll tell you the story. So in 2020, I made a decision to purchase some Bitcoin, and this was before I had a really deep understanding of how to work with cryptocurrency and Web3. But I had been told by a lot of people around me that it was a great idea, and I had heard that you could make really good money purchasing cryptocurrency. And so I purchased crypto while I was going through a pretty rough financial time in my life. Now, although I had principles in place that meant that my rent was always paid and all those things, I had recently become a single mum. And so I had put in an amount that was definitely overextending myself. And I then had to pull that money back out of my Bitcoin. And so what ended up happening was it went up a little bit. I think I put in about 5,000 and it went up to about 7 or 8,000. And I thought, yippee, I've made so much money. I'm going to take that out. But the reason that I took that money back out of that portfolio was because of scarcity and because I needed some cash. And so while it didn't necessarily blow up in my face, I suppose my lesson from that was that I really shouldn't have overextended what I was placing into Web3, because if I had put less in without the need to take it out, we don't even want to do the maths as to what that money would be worth today. But thankfully for me, I only made that mistake once. And since then, I have never ever pulled money out of my crypto portfolio, only ever put it in. So while it was risky, it was definitely worth the risk because I got a great lesson as a result. Question number 2. Do you ever feel like becoming a mother killed parts of your identity? And if so, how did you resurrect yourself? I love that one. It gives me a lot to think about, if I'm honest. I think when you become a mother, it is something that a lot of people don't prepare themselves for. You know, most women have this desire to become mothers, and we don't necessarily realize that. I wouldn't say it kills parts of your identity, but there are parts of your way of operating that just absolutely change. And some of them are so beautiful, and some of them can be really detrimental to your mental health. I think for me, when I had my daughter, she's nearly 14 now. So when I had her, stepping into that motherhood bubble was just absolutely beautiful. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of. And it was just like pure bliss, not without sleepless nights, but it was pure bliss. And it was something I'd always dreamed of, was to be a mum. And so it was just a beautiful experience. But I've had children 6 years apart. So then my son came along 6 years later. And that was a little bit of an identity shift because I'd gained a lot of freedom back after having my first child. But this time around, and I think that may be what this person is referring to, this time around as a 41-year-old with a 4-month-old and 2 older children, definitely the identity shift has been huge. And I think, in my opinion, the older you get, the more you get used to things. You know, I think when we're younger, we're definitely more flexible. We can adapt and we can change. But one thing I have noticed is I'm a little bit OCD and I like things the way they are. And over the years, I've become quite minimal with my belongings and really receptive and really, I suppose, like just really selfish with my time. Even though I'm a mum to 2, just loving the freedom that I'd created. Now that, you know, my older daughter is 14 almost and my son nearly 8, I had been able to reclaim back that freedom. I am resourced, you know, I'm able to have helpers and cleaners and all those different things. And then having my little boy Lath come along, it definitely shifted me into this, the worst thing to say, but like this frumpy mum thing again. And it was just like a shock to my system because I think we have this idea that it's all going to be just so fine because you've got more resources and you've got more helpers and you've got your business flowing. But it definitely did shift a lot. But now, 4 months postpartum, I'm in that resurrection phase. So a lot of the things that I've done have just been really leaning into my health practices and becoming more selfish with my time. Another thing that I learned, which has been quite interesting because I've done tons and tons of personal development work, but another thing I learned was that I got to a point recently in the recent years where I was really good at not asking for help. And so having another baby has forced me in a really beautiful way to actually go back and actually say, Mum, Dad, even though I'm 41 now, can you please help me? And ask my partner, like, and really say, like, this is what I need from you, and then allow the help, which I think when you become a really independent woman can be quite confronting because I had done a very good job of becoming self-sufficient and managing every damn thing in my life. And if I didn't know how to manage it, I would pay for someone to manage it for me. You know, I'd throw money at the situation and get someone to help me. But actually leaning into that more vulnerable side of myself has been a really beautiful part of having another baby at the age of 41. All right, this is an interesting one. So in relationships, do you believe women should lean back and let men lead financially? Or is true intimacy built on equality? It's quite a deep question. Okay, so the first part, do I believe women should lean back and let men lead financially? Look, at the end of the day, this is going to be so different for everybody and we all have different capacities. So I can't say absolutely yes or absolutely no to that question. But what I will say is this: I believe that it is a woman's responsibility to always have herself set up with a level of financial independence. That means if something goes wrong in her relationship, she has the ability to make decisions without letting the financial side keep her in a place that she doesn't want to be. And that for me has come from trauma. That for me has come from going through a really nasty divorce and having things occur that were really freaking hard. And so I would never, ever, and I've seen this happen for so many women where they literally will say, I stayed in that marriage for too long, like I couldn't get access to our money. And one of the greatest gifts I've always given myself is having structure around my money. And so I don't believe in dishonesty in relationships. I believe in full transparency. But what I would do, and again, like I say, everyone will be different. But at the end of the day, what I would do is I would always have an agreement with your husband or your partner, if you're sharing money, that you both have an ability to have a account that is independent from each other. And there's so many ways you can structure that. Inside of my Build Your Wealth portal, we often discuss these kind of topics. But what I would say is that, let's just use an example. Like if you were to say, all right, we're both going to have an independent account. We do what we want with that money. It might be $100 a week. It might be $50 a week. Who knows? Everybody's different. Their capacity is different. What that will enable you to do, if you're a woman, is then decide, do you want to spend that on things that are going to depreciate over time? Or do you want to set that up to grow and multiply so that you create financial freedom? The man has the same opportunity, right? But I am also not in any way, shape, or form against women creating income and having additional kind of side hustles and things like that that sets them up to feel more independent. And look, there are so many layers to that question, but at the end of the day, we are all going to be different. And there is a lot to heal when it comes to money, when it comes to the wounds that we carry, the traumas that we carry from childhood around money, our ability to receive it, our ability to feel worthy of it. But the really short answer is you must have structure and you must communicate with your partner, because there are going to be times and seasons where you cannot and do not want to earn the same amount as your partner. There are other factors that are involved at the moment in this day and age, like the fact that women, like we're seeing women like myself as a coach making exponential amounts of money that sometimes men just can't physically make in their roles at work. And so there's a lot to consider there. I know I didn't really give you a solid answer, but hopefully some food for thought. I definitely don't think it's black and white for everybody. Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. All right, so this is a really interesting question and I love it. Thank you for asking. So this one is, why would your followers choose to invest with you over other people teaching wealth creation strategies? And I love that. It's a fantastic portal to me, kind of selling myself to you. But to be honest, I believe that you've really got to work with someone that you feel in alignment with. And I think that there is always going to be 1,000 people you can learn off. In this day and age, we have podcasts, we have free information, we have ChatGPT, we have all these different things that we can go and independently learn off and learn from. We have information overload. Everything is at our fingertips. I know that my clients will predominantly choose to work with me because they have a level of relatability. They can either see that I'm just a few steps ahead of them and that I'm where they want to be, or they have that attraction to my energy. And it's more so I want to be in proximity with somebody that I believe can see me, can feel my energy, can relate to me, and then can pave the way for me. So yeah, it's very, very hard to decipher who to learn off. But the other thing that I would recommend is that if you're looking for somebody to learn off, just ensure that they are going to do their utmost and hold themselves to the highest standard when it comes to the way they operate behind the scenes. Because there are a lot of people who can talk the talk. There are a lot of people who can show up online and look shiny, but think about the embodiment piece. So, for me, I always want to have mentors that value their health really highly, that have values in their family, things that I can really deeply align with. And I know that for my clients, they really appreciate the fact that they can see that embodiment piece in me. Okay, this one's a bit juicy. I feel like I may have already half answered this, but I will give you my best advice. So the question is, if someone is going through a divorce and terrified of starting over, what is the bluntest advice you'd give them? Okay, well, the bluntest piece of advice for somebody going through a divorce and terrified of starting over. Look, at the end of the day, women have very fierce intuition. And one of the things that I literally have tattooed on my arm is feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, there is a reason why women are intuitive. And so if you know that divorce is inevitable and the fear of starting over is what is maybe stopping you, obviously, there are so many nuances when it comes to relationships, and I am definitely not an advocate for divorcing. Trust me, I've said this a million times to the people around me. I never got married to get divorced. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. And I feel that most women, if they get to that point, there must be something seriously wrong. There must be something that feels beyond repair, or there must be something really toxic going on. So, the bluntest piece of advice is get your finances together, and why the hell do you not already have them in order? I can guarantee you that if you had your finances together, you literally would be able to do exactly what you wanted when it comes to leaving a toxic relationship. And that is what stops most women, because the starting over is just a fear of being broke. So go hard on looking at where you're spending your money, how you're operating. Don't beat yourself up around what you've done in the past or maybe how you've mismanaged the money in the past, but become fierce at learning how you're going to collapse time and how you're going to get yourself back into a position as fast as possible, so that that starting over isn't even really something that comes into the equation. I mean, I've seen women in the last year, just inside of my coaching spaces and inside of my business, that have gone from leaving corporate jobs to creating $100,000 a month coaching businesses. I see women that are doing incredible things. And sometimes the adversity in life that we're experiencing is actually the thing that will exceed all expectations when it comes to collapsing time and creating exponential results. So instead of feeling that fear, understand that, like, if you're getting to that rock bottom, the only way is up. So just fucking go up, right? So this one's a great one. Did I grow my business as a coach and my crypto portfolio simultaneously or separately? So in the last 2 years, I've been pretty aggressive with growing my crypto portfolio. And I did that simultaneously to growing my coaching business. So my coaching business has been something that has been in existence for around 11 years, but definitely in the last 8 or so years, there's been an upward progression in the way my coaching business feels and looks. One of the beautiful things when you're starting to invest and you're looking to grow your portfolio is actually the concept of just making money while you sleep and making the money you're making make more money. So for me, growing my coaching business at the same time was actually a really big driver. The more profit I could bring into my coaching business, the more I was able to feed into the different strategies, the diversification strategies around Web3, which has now helped me create almost seven-figure portfolio in that Web3 space. So yeah, I did them simultaneously. I didn't stop. I was laser focused. I curved all of my crazy spending habits, and the results have just been outrageously fantastic for my family so far. Okay, so the final question for today. What is the darkest, most uncomfortable belief you had to face about money before you could actually hold wealth? Oh, such a good story. So, one of my coaches years and years ago, Mitch, God love him, he is an incredible man. I was sitting at a seminar that he was hosting, and this was me, right? Like listening, just with the arms crossed. It was like, oh my God, this man is saying things I do not like. And he pulled a one liner. And I remember, because I had between my arms being crossed and like really disliking what I was hearing, I was also trying to take notes. And he pulled this one liner. And for about 5 years, I went between believing it and not believing it. And it was that your self worth and your net worth are in direct correlation. And I was just like, that's going to have to be a fuck no from me. I don't believe that. And what I mean by that was when someone tells a confident woman who has achieved a lot in her life, but also has credit card debt and has made tons of bad money decisions and doesn't have a lot of net worth, that their self-worth is in correlation with the net worth that they have, it hits really, really hard. And to be honest, that was some of the best advice I'd ever gotten. And for a while, I rejected the advice. I rejected it to be true. I was like, no, I actually don't want to believe this. This is not for me. Everyone can have their difference of opinion, but every single time I found my wealth diminishing, I found my bank balance diminishing, I found my nervous system feeling unsettled and unstable around money. Every single time I didn't follow my principles correctly, or I stepped away from truly leaning into wealth building, every single time I did that, it was because there was something going on with my level of self-worth, with my level of respect for self, with the way that I loved myself. And so that was some of the best advice I'd ever been given, but also extremely confronting, because what that has forced me to do time and time again is raise my own level of self-worth so high. And so every time I feel like I'm going to make a decision with money that is not in alignment with the legacy I'm building for my family, that isn't in alignment with what's best for my children, it's like, what's going on for you, Jess? Like, how is your self-worth going today? Like, rate it from 0 being obviously pretty bad to 10 being fantastic. And then what I've actually done as a result of that advice is I've gone and I've actually implemented ways to raise my levels of self-worth, and automatically the wealth correlates. It's actually freaking wild. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was a great question, whoever sent that in. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. I actually found that super fun. I didn't need to think of any ideas. I just got to answer you guys. So have a beautiful day. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.